Welcome to the show, Governor Walker.
Thanks for having me.
You got a couple.
No tie today, though.
No tie today, though. No, I dressed up yesterday, and my feet were paying for it and everything. So I went casual today. You kind of have to.
Although I took my jacket off yesterday, at least rolled up my sleeves. Not too bad.
For a politician, that's living on the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
You got quite a little swarm of people around you, Governor Walker.
Not too bad. Not too bad. I said they were chanting "Go, Scott, go" before I thought, when I stopped, does it mean we were going to say "Stop, Scott, stop"? Is that the directional there?
Turn right, Scott, turn right. Giving you.
I don't think they have any problems telling me to turn right.
No, I think that's a good thing.
Left might be a problem, but
CPAC so far, your speech was well received. Again, you did like you did in Iowa. You basically talked with the audience rather than spoke to the audience.
Yeah.
Spoke extemporaneously. How did you feel the reaction?
It was good. I like doing that. I like getting a sense for the feel. As you know, my father's a preacher, so it was kind of nice getting that. You want to see a rhythm of a crowd and react to them and feel with them. It was more of a conversation than a speech. And we felt good about it. And my hope is that that's the kind of conversation, should I choose to get in this race, that we can have with the American people, instead of doing what a lot and some elements of the mainstream media want, which is they want to go off in these manufactured crises, so-called gotcha questions. We're going to talk about the things that people care about.
We'll cover that in a second, but I want to get familiar. This is the first time a lot of people here are being exposed to Scott Walker. Yeah. And your record in Wisconsin is amazing. You've won 3 elections in 4 years, which is unheard of, with all the money in the world thrown against you.
Yeah.
And you have not caved on the core principles that you could have easily said, all right, I'm going to pump the brakes on this. The university reforms that everybody knows for the union reforms that you've done, the pension reforms that you've done, the tenure reforms, education. But it's more, you're doing things in universities that could be useful around the country. Tell us a little bit about that.
We keep pushing. One of the best things Mitch Daniels told me when he was governor in Indiana, now he's actually president at Purdue and doing some of these very reforms, was don't stop reforming. Always take whatever success, whatever political capital you gain out of reform and reinvest it, just like you would in the private sector with a successful business. And so we've tried to reinvest it from economic reform, education reform, tax reform, welfare reform, now higher ed reform. We're taking a university system that was once under the thumb of heavy government bureaucracy in the state level and giving it a complete authority, but along with that, giving them flexibility on purchasing, on procurement, getting rid of the requirement. Wisconsin was one of the states that had shared governance with the faculty, saying we have respect for the faculty, but the administrator should be the one in charge. And giving a dividend back to the taxpayers of about $150 million a year, which is a mere 2.5% of their overall budget.
Right.
But you'd think the world was coming to an end. And then asking for simple things, saying you want to make some changes, particularly in the short term. Why not ask the faculty to teach one more course a semester as a way of offsetting?
You told a story about that that was absolutely hilarious, about the professor that they sent out to protest that you were asking them to do more.
The spokesperson they put to lead that charge was someone who had zero, not a one course they were teaching this semester. I thought at least maybe somebody had taught something at higher levels of rhetoric, that you might want to pick the professor that's got a little bit of an overload to make the case about not teaching more, not the one who's got zero.
That's the problem with the left, is they've been getting away with it for so long that they don't understand that that's not normal. So they would send somebody out there who's...
And they also make the mistake that thinking if you're asking for a university system to become more effective, to become more efficient, and ultimately become more accountable, the kind of university, just like a government you deserve, we should have, that's not being opposed to higher education. That's saying you want it done in a way that's cost-effective and still provides reliable quality. The choice, I think, not just in this, but everywhere in government I get so frustrated with, is the false choice. The false choice between either raising taxes or fees or cutting core services. In the private sector, people don't do it. I was just talking to a grocery store owner the other day, and I said, that's like saying, boy, we're going to have to raise prices, double what they're at because it's a tough time, or we're going to have to cut the quality of our produce and other foods out there where nobody would go to that grocery store. They find ways over the years. They put in cash registers that operate on their own or other efficiencies out there. People do that all over the world outside of government. Government's one of the rare places left that gives that false choice. We need to change that.
Let's talk. Right now, there's the Senate in Wisconsin has passed a piece of right-to-work legislation. A lot of people think you made the state a right-to-work state already. That was just for government employees.
Exactly right.
Now this one is going full bore. The House is probably going to pass it next week. You said you'd sign it.
Yeah.
You will sign it?
Absolutely. We'll be, by the end of next week, we should be the 25th state in the country that gives our workers the freedom to choose, the freedom to work where they want, regardless of whether they join a labor union. And it's just one more step towards giving freedom back.
Unions are amazing. They get incredibly upset about the prospect of membership in them being voluntary, which gives you everything you need to know about the quality of joining a union.
Well, I always tell folks, for all the hysteria, that in our state it was a lot quieter, a lot more quiet than it has been in other states in the past, because 4 years ago, as you mentioned, we did this for all public employees, 300,000 state and local employees. And all the same arguments were used. The world was going to come to an end. It was going to hurt workers, do all these things. They particularly said it was going to kill public education. Mm-hmm. It did just the opposite. By empowering our school boards to hire and fire, they have the flexibility to hire and fire based on merit because we don't have tenure or seniority. They're able to pay based on performance. Now they can put the best and the brightest in their classrooms. And lo and behold, graduation rates are up. Third grade reading scores are up. ACT scores are second best in the country. What we found is if you give people freedom, it's amazing what they'll do with it.
It's a novel concept, and sad that in 2015 that's still a novel concept. Speaking of freedom, yesterday we saw an unprecedented power grab by the Federal Communications Commission, basically saying, nice internet you built there, now we'd like to have it. Yeah. It's seizing it, not directly seizing it, but saying you can't do anything with it, you can't manage your own property. This was supposed, the FCC is, and I'm doing air quotes on the radio, an independent body, but the White House, by all indications, heavily involved in this. Where are you on net neutrality? And hypothetically, if you, say, were to get a promotion in 2016 and January 20th, 2017, what would you, I mean, it can't be undone with executive orders, but Congress needs to get involved. Where are you on net neutrality?
Well, I go, as I was asked yesterday, at the heart of any of these questions, and we'll obviously lay out details on 100 other questions like that should we get in officially, but it goes back to the core of freedom. To me, I think the government's too big, too expansive, too much a part of our lives, and it needs to be reined in, and that we're much better off if we let the market drive decisions out there. If we allow, whether it's in this particular issue or with a horde of other issues out there, that the real problem, I think, in America today, particularly with those who feel that the American dream is out of reach from them, isn't the so-called disparity between incomes. It's the fact that the government sticks their nose into too many things in our lives, and that we'd be much better off if not only individuals had freedom to do what they want, but we allowed businesses, employers, job creators to go out and have the freedom to do things, as long as basic public safety and basic public health tenets we're mindful of going forward. I think you got to give people freedom, and that means getting the government out of dictating what job creators do. This is just one more example.
Last couple of questions for you. You've been the subject of a lot of press scrutiny, manufactured press scrutiny, quite frankly. It used to be they'd report the news, now they make the news.
Absolutely.
But it's helped you. The one thing about the grassroots on the right is when somebody's under attack by the media, they rally to them rather than run from them. Are you surprised at how vicious it's gotten so early? I mean, it's early.
No. Sadly, no. I haven't been surprised because, remember, I've run 3 times in 4 years. The last 2 elections, I had national media in my state for both of those. Certainly the recall, but in the re-elect, I was the #1 target in America. 10 days before the recall election, I literally had a reporter, I think it was from the NBC affiliate in Milwaukee, stick a mic in my face and say, what do you think about online reports that you fathered a love child in college? To which I said, that's outrageous. This is why good people don't want to run. This is nonsense. Of course I did. Well, after I was done, I picked up the phone and called my wife and said, you won't believe what they said. My wife, who's been tested so much, started laughing instead of being freaked out. And she said, well, of course you couldn't have had a love child in college. You weren't even married to me yet. But my point in all that is, other than the fact it was wrong, was this is the kind of nonsense that they leap to. They're much more interested in this than what are you going to do with the national debt or the economy or the war on radical Islamic terrorism, because it's easier for them to cover. And we're just not taking the bait, and they're frustrated with that. What I think is nice about the base out there is not only did they rally to us, they appreciated the fact that instead of just saying that, then I pushed back. And the one thing I'll give the Washington Post credit for is they did print my pushback, which they don't always do, others don't.
It was the headline that was really where
well, right, they said the nonsense, but then I said this is the kind of nonsense that is why people hate Washington, and increasingly they hate more and more parts of the press, because I defy most media outlets to go down and walk down the street anywhere and ask people what they care about. It wouldn't be the things they're asking about.
Perhaps the country needs a Midwesterner, as a Midwesterner myself. Last question for you. This is a hectic life. You're getting the hook, but what do you do? How do you relax? What's your music?
I ride a Harley.
You ride a Harley?
I ride a Harley. I've got a 2003 Road King. That's my respite. I don't golf.
Well, you can't do that right now. You can't do either of them right now
Not
in Wisconsin.
But I love to ride in the spring. Hopefully by May I'll get out my bike, and I got 21,000 miles on it. So
nice.
I love that. And a little bit of the Bodines from Wisconsin is always a little fun.
Bodines, I know.
It's one of those generational things. Both my kids and I love you too. There's a lot of good groups out there.
Next door is Minnesota. The Replacements are my guys.
Oh, so that's not too bad either.
There you go. Governor Scott Walker, what website can people go to find out more about you?
OurAmericanRevival.com.
OurAmericanRevival.com. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. Always a pleasure. I'm going to ask you to sign this Major League Baseball for me. And I thank you for stopping by. And you are going to get just pounded for selfies in a moment. So
which
good
is
luck
all right.
to you.